Hey people, this episode of WTF is sponsored in part by Comedy Central. You can win weekly prizes by going to Twitter and following @Comedy Central for exclusive updates and weekly giveaways. Do it. Why not?
Lock the gate!
Are we doing this? Really? Wait for it. Are we doing this? Wait for it. Pow! What the fuck?
WTF.
And it's also, what the fuck? What's wrong with me? It's time for WTF. What the fuck?
With Marc Maron.
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fuckineers? What the fuckeridians? What the fucktuckians? Oh, yeah. God, the list keeps growing. I think that's all for today. I'm Marc Maron. This is WTF. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on board. Hey, I just wanted to, all right, do I want to do that? Yeah, before I talk about anything else, if you don't have my new CD, why don't you go get it? You can get it on iTunes. It's called This Has to Be Funny. Just a reminder that I'm selling CDs occasionally. Thinking about putting some new t-shirts together, but let's not talk about merch. I got a great show for you today. I was very excited to be able to talk to Chris Elliott because I've been a fan of his for a long time. I have very distinct memories of watching the first Letterman show, the original Letterman show, the year that it started. I hope my dates are right, when I was in college, and just seeing his characters. What a funny fucking guy. And also just the fact that, you know, he comes from a legacy of show business. Bob and Ray, his father, was Bob Eliott. And, you know, it's just very interesting to me to be able to talk to him about what that meant to him, how it impacted his career, how it impacted his comedy. Because I'm sort of fascinated with people that grow up in show business, but we'll talk to him in just a second. Let me first tell you exactly what's going on in this show today. All right. Because we're sponsored today by Adult Swim. It's no coincidence. Season 2 of Eagleheart with Chris Elliott starts tonight at midnight on Adult Swim. Eagleheart is produced by Conan O'Brien, also stars Maria Thayer and Brett Gelman. It's hilarious. I've got copies of it. It's a bit demented, which you'd expect from Mr. Elliott and Mr. Gelman. It's what you would expect just from this crew. It's a funny show. So you can catch new episodes every Thursday night. Go to adultswim.com for the schedule and more details. Do that. Because Elliott's great. Gelman's great. They're all great. We're going to talk to Chris Elliott in a minute, but I'm not unathletic. I'm not incapable. The problem is that I'm too obsessive and too panicked to do things the right way, to have the patience to do it. I'm pretty good for a half an hour. Like, for instance, I just bowled against Chris Hardwick. I bowled 146. Never bowled 146 before because I'm not a bowler, but I am able to do shit if I focus. And I think just the fact that Hardwick was there and that he's like a professional bowler, I knew I couldn't beat him, but I wasn't going to look like a fucking pussy. So I bowled a 146. That's something. It's not relevant. It's not important, but I did that just to point out that I can focus my obsessions if necessary. But sometimes they bite me in the ass. I don't know if this has happened to you. I was laying in bed. No, that's a lie. I wasn't in bed. I was going to leave town for a few days. I went to Colorado. And every time I leave town, that's when I start to think, well, what could go wrong while I'm away? Let's nip that in the bud. So I decided I better check the roof to see if there are pine needles up there because I only got one rain gutter. And if that gets clogged up, there's a real good chance water will build up and start pouring through the roof and out of the cabinets of my house. And I don't know about you, but even if I'm not home, I don't want someone to open a cabinet and have a wave of water come out. It happened once and I'm panicked about it. Haven't been up on the roof lately. Not since I put the AC thing up there. So now it's 8:30 at night, the night before I'm supposed to leave, and I'm sitting there packing. I'm like, fuck, I got to check the roof. So I get outside. Jessica's in the house. She's packing. I get the big old ladder. My roof is it's probably about 30 feet, because of the side of my house. Does that seem unreasonable? Let's say 25 feet. Is that a lot? I don't know. It's up there. It's high because of the way the side of the house is designed. So I'm just going to put the ladder up there, climb up. I've done this before. Climb up over the roof, check out the gutter, make sure it's okay, throw out some pine needles. So I climb up that ladder. It's at night. It's an aluminum ladder, but it's sturdy. I climb up. I climb over. I'm on the roof. I'm like, cool. Rain gutter looks okay. I'll move this shit. Fine. Then when you're going back down, that's where it gets a little weird because I got to throw my leg over the edge of the roof, and I realize I'm pretty high up here. I get both of my feet on the ladder, and I had this thought. I thought, what kind of idiot falls off a fucking ladder? I mean, it's pretty clear. You got your balance. The ladder's set up right. Should not be a problem. That is a thought I had as I took 2 steps down the ladder. And then I don't know what happened, but I didn't fall backwards, but the ladder started to move sideways on its own. Just started to move sideways. And there's that moment. It's a decisive moment. It's a decisive moment because you know exactly what is happening. It's the same moment that you have when you're about to hit another car. It's a decisive moment only in that you have to decide how, if possible, you're going to get into an accident. It's good. It's better than being surprised by an accident. Maybe not. Maybe you're more relaxed then. But this ladder started moving to the right, and I realized this isn't going to stop. I'm still 15, 20 feet up, and it's moving. And then you're like, this isn't moving. It's not just moving. The ladder is falling. You are falling off a ladder now. That's what's happening. And then it just turns into slow motion. I felt the ladder go. It kept going. I grabbed hold of the rain gutter that's on the side of my house as if that's going to help me. And the ladder just goes, falls down to the side. I'm now, facing up in a free fall, pulling down a rain gutter on top of me. I hear the ladder clank down. Then I hear me hit the ground. Boom. Then the rain gutter hits on top of me, and I'm laying there. And I have not had that feeling in a long time. That feeling where you're like, I'm mortal. I just fell off my bike. I'm about to cry. I think I hurt myself. Those kind of happen in sequence. But the first thing that happens is like, all right, I can still feel my arms and legs, and I need to lay here for a minute. And then I'm like, shit, that was bad. I wonder if anything's broken because that's going to piss her off because we have to travel tomorrow. That was my thought. Like, I don't want to piss her off and ruin this trip by breaking something or ending up in a wheelchair. And then, I just laid there and I'm like, okay, felt my foot. I'm like, I hurt, but I don't think anything's broken. And then, I noticed that I scraped myself up and I got up and I was okay. But that moment where a kid falls down and, he gets up and he knows he's okay. But if someone's around who saw it, he's going to start crying. But if no one was there, he probably would have just walked it off. Well, I didn't do that. What I did was I got up and I was a little shocked at myself. And what I should have done was just shut the fuck up, put the ladder away, and never mention it. What I chose to do, because I'm a 5-year-old, is run into the house and go, I fell off the ladder! I fell off the ladder! And she's like, what? Jessica says, what? And I'm like, I fell off the ladder. She's like, what are you talking about? And I walked her outside and I showed her the rain gutter and I showed her the ladder and I looked at her like, no, and like, I don't know what the point of it was other than to get her upset because she started, getting overwhelmed with emotion at the thought that she would have walked out there, outside and found me, laying in a pool of blood or unable to walk. What did we learn here? A couple of things. Don't go up a ladder yourself. If you do and you fall down like an idiot and you don't hurt yourself, just keep it to yourself. Don't run in like a 5-year-old and cry. Just keep it to yourself. That's a secret. That's one of those. It's not a white lie because, she didn't know what happened. If a guy falls off a ladder on the side of his house at 8:30 at night because he was obsessively worrying about whether or not there were pine needles in the rain gutter, and no one was there to see or hear him fall, did it happen? Nope. That's just between you and you. All right, I'm going to call Jim Gaffigan. He's got this special out. Came out yesterday. And I want to talk to him about it. He did the same thing Louis did. It's available online at jimgaffigan.com. But I told him I'd call. And and just talk to them a bit about it, because this is exciting, man. Comics are taking complete ownership of their shit, and it's a beautiful thing. So let's give Jim a call.
Hello?
Jim.
Yeah?
Marc Maron.
Oh, hey, Mark. How are you?
What's up, buddy? I wanted to talk to you about the special.
Oh, sure. That would be great. I'd appreciate it.
You've jumped in, and now you're going to sell your special online exclusively. And this is a whole new what is it? 90 minutes, an hour and 15? What is it?
It's hour and 15, 75 minutes.
And it's nothing that anyone has heard before from you.
No, well, if you've been to live shows, you've seen it.
Well, most people have not seen it. So how does this work? How do people when is it up? Is it up today? Today being Thursday?
Yes, it is up. It's been up for a day, and it's an interesting thing. I'm going off of Louis' lead. I was looking at completely different ideas. I wanted to do something where my idea was that an advertiser like Microsoft would make you watch a commercial for a minute, and then people would be able to download it for free. And so Microsoft would give me, it would just be like this key thing. But of course, Microsoft was like, "Who are you?" They're like, "What? No, that's great. I don't know who you are, though." So then, while I was doing that and talking to the usual suspects, Louis did this thing, and look, it's Louis. Louis, he figured it out. It's like he was like, all right. It's like you make it a really low price, and you make it really easy to buy, and and I struggled. Jeannie and I were like thinking of ideas. How can we do this different? It's like I'm obviously not going to charge more than $5.
Right.
And I was like, all right, I'll make it $4. And then I was like, well, that's, there's nothing unique about that.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, every $1 from $1 from every purchase will go to a charity. Obviously Louis gave money away, but it was like built in. And then, Louis even said, he goes, the irony is you could end up giving away more money than I did, which is a very nice thing to say. But
let me understand. So you and Louis are competing for the amount of money you give away to a charity.
No.
This is basically just a competition.
It turns into a deposition. So Did you not say that Louis C.K. and you are in a competition?
No, What I'm trying to show you is that this is, ultimately your special is a competition with Louis to see who the better person is.
Well, first of all, let me be very clear. Louis did something that Louis is the comedian of today. There's just, and it's undeniable. And early on, I realized that I was not going to sell as many as Louis, because
Jim, I'm excited about your special, and I want you to get excited about it.
I am.
I think that Gaffigan fans around the world, I think you and Louis are different comedians. You're both very popular and big comedians. You have different audiences, but you share some of the same audience. You're a professional. People love you. You sell out theaters all around the country, and you bring entertainment to people of all ages. And I just think you're going to have to live with that. And I think, like, not only am I excited about this special, but my listeners will be excited. And that's why I'm talking to you right now, because I want people to go buy it. So why don't you tell me where they can get that before you disregard the entire project?
You know what? You are such a dick, but JimGaffigan.com.
How am I being a dick? I'm listening to you speak honestly about your special, but you're being a little self-demeaning, and I think that you're a great comic. But that's great. So it's at JimGaffigan.com, and it's how much did you decide on for the money?
Well, I'm giving it's $5, and from every purchase, $1 goes to the Bob Woodruff Fund that helps veterans and their families.
Well, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited because I think that I've figured out off of Louis' lead that, to take the commerce out of the purchase. It's like, it's a low price, this is not about greed. $1 of it's going there. I'll make my money back. Maybe I'll make a little money, but like this is not some elaborate plan to get a giant pile of money. This is, going off of Louis' lead.
Yeah, but ultimately, what it does do is it gives you a lot of creative control. It gives you the experience of producing your own special, of making your own choices, of doing it exactly the way you want to. So I think, outside of, whether it's to make a pile of money or not, or whether or not it's to give a bundle of money to charity, which is wonderful, it's just that it's a new way of presenting the artist's work that the artist has complete control over, and I think that's very exciting. Yeah,
no, it is really exciting, and it's also one of those things where, when you go on stage when you haven't been on stage for a while, and there's that fear, but it's the fear that you love.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've been feeling for 2 weeks. It's like, I'm confident some people will buy it, but I have no idea. In the end, comedians, I think there's this thrill seeker kind of risk taker. There's nothing normal about going on stage and making strangers laugh. It's very familiar. It's a very it's a fun thing. It's a scary high.
No, absolutely, and I think that like what is amazing about what you're doing and what Louis did, and I think Aziz did it as well, is that it really is a movement towards complete creative freedom with what we do, which I think is fairly unheard of. And I'm happy it's happening. I'm waiting for somebody to spoil the party. I'm waiting for somebody to say that they own the internet, but that hasn't happened yet. And in terms of how long did it take you to put together the material?
Well, Jeannie and I, we wrote it for 2 years. I mean, this is definitely, harvesting the crops of 2 years.
Well, that's an incredible bargain for $5. See, that's the amazing thing is how you offer something at a good value in a unique way, but you worked fucking hard, and I'm sure it's great.
Oh, well, thanks, buddy.
So they just go to jimgaffigan.com.
Yeah.
And you can get it there.
Yeah, I think, when I bought it, I think it was like 3 clicks. It's like click here, type in, I typed in my Amazon, and, there it was.
All right. Well, I'm going to obviously play this on the podcast and send some people your way.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Do you feel good about everything that's happened here on the phone?
I feel great about it. And I actually, since Grand Rapids, I've been kind of sitting there thinking of what this phone call is going to be like. I'm like, how crazy is crazy Marc Maron going to be? Is he going to confront me on my laziness
no.
or my sloppiness? Or is he going to be kind of, the champion of comedians? Or is he going to be the older brother I've known for 15 years where we can bond on our anger?
And what was I?
I think it was the older brothers that, it was 2 crazy old men talking.
Yeah, but I'm also I'm thrilled for you, and I hope that I hope you do well with this thing, Jim. I harbor no contempt towards you, and whatever happened in Grand Rapids, whatever misscheduling that happened, and you had to cancel at the last minute, that anger is all gone. I let that go because I know you're busy, and I know that it was not an intentional thing, and I have absolutely no malice towards you whatsoever, and I have a great deal of respect for you, and I like you.
Well, thank you.
And I think you're funny.
Thanks so much. Hey, that's the only one that matters, right?
And I never say anything bad about you ever.
Thank you.
Except
the thing that's so great about podcasts is like comedians are just sitting there talking. And in a way, comedians just end up being the Kardashians of podcasts. It's like people are listening, just going, "These lunatics."
I don't know if that's true. I mean, now okay. So now you're taking a shot at what I'm doing for a living. Listen, Jim, I think you snuck one in on your older brother, and you think you didn't notice. I get it. How's the kids?
They're multiplying as we speak.
You have more?
No, they're great.
How many? You have 4?
And, it's great. It really is great. I mean, it is exhausting, and it's it would sound like every cliche you've ever heard, but I would have it no other way.
Are you calling it quits, though? Is this it? You done?
I would say I would not bet on done.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts, and you don't even have to do that now, and it's not even part of your religion. You're addicted to children. I think you should maybe go to a meeting for that.
No, it's funny. You know how like there's something about when you go on stage and you say something and there's a little bit of a shock. It's not just, saying something irreverent or taboo. It's about you say something and you see a twinkle in someone's eye.
Yeah.
That there's almost something kind of fun about it. That's not the reason why I'm not doing it, but there's almost kind of like I love kind of a panicked, concerned look when people find out I have 4 kids. It's almost kind of we all love to surprise a little bit, right? And I love it.
I thought you were going to go a different direction with that. I thought you were going to say that moment where you say something on stage and you see that sparkle in somebody's eye, that you can get that all the time with children. And that's why I have to keep having them, because once they get older than 12, that goes away.
No, it's, my oldest is 7, and, there is something about, something so terrifying and overwhelming about children that, you just walk around in love, happy, and defeated at the same time, and grateful. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like,
in love, happy, defeated, and grateful. Is that the name of the special? Because that should be.
It's great.
All right, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
You bet, Jim. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Adam and Eve, how are you with your sex toys? How's your sex life? How are you set for condoms? Do you have condoms? Do you have vibrators? Are you bored? Are you by yourself? Are you bored in your relationship and you need something that hums or vibrates or needs to clip on, or perhaps, something that makes you look funny, or something that you strap on? Are you alone and you're tired of that rusty old thing in the drawer, that tired old plastic thing, that outdated thing that doesn't even vibrate at different frequencies anymore? Well, it's your lucky day. We're sponsored today by AdamandEve.com, and that you get 50% off almost any item. And if you order with my promotion code, you get 3 free dirty DVDs. You get a special bonus gift, free shipping. All you got to do is go to AdamandEve.com and use WTF as the promo code at checkout. Come on, you Catholics. It's condom time. Easter's over. Time to start up again. Pace yourselves. Come on. Come on, lonely people. You need something to put in there? You tired of that one? Get yourself a new one, 50% off, free shipping, AdamandEve.com, WTF as a promo code. All right, so you can pull that thing into your face. It should just turn around and move.
Hello.
Chris Elliott. I'm glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Mark.
You're not living here. You just came out.
No, I wouldn't live here. Are you crazy? No, I think it's good for you.
Yeah, I understand that. I had nowhere else to go.
Well, no, I know. You got kind of run out of New York. And,
I did. I got ran out of the things I invented, and actual things ran me away from New York. You don't live in New York, though. You live in, Connecticut.
I grew up in New York. I live in Connecticut now. I live 2 hours out of the city.
That's why I wanted to ask you, because I'm sort of obsessed with old comedy, and I know your dad is an old comedian, or was an old comedian. Is he still with us?
He's still with us. He just turned 89.
Is he still funny?
He's funnier than ever at 89. It is really amazing that he is so funny, and at 89 he still can do these looks and these takes and say things that just floor you.
And his brain's good?
His brain's great. It's great.
That's
He's
awesome.
Still doing crossword puzzles and all that. I mean, like anybody at 89, things are physically slowing down a little bit, but he's, he can still watch, Jeopardy and know all the answers. And what's amazing about him I gave him for his birthday an old stand-up radio and that works and also plays CDs.
Yeah.
And he put in, he has all this music because he started as a DJ in Boston, playing basically.
What year would that be?
Oh God, in the 40s, early 40s, playing big band music.
So he was familiar with that radio because that's what he came out of.
That's what he came out of, and he can listen to the first note of any tune and say, "Oh, that's Harry James."
The big band stuff.
Yeah, anything from that era.
Wow.
And Bing Crosby, who he,
Do you do brain exercises?
I'm doing one right now.
Yeah, I know, but did you
can't you see it moving?
Yeah,
it's flexing right now.
But like crosswords and stuff, I'm starting.
I don't. I really don't.
How's your memory holding up?
It's terrible.
Is it?
Yeah, and I don't know. That part of my dad's talent, I did not inherit. He was always great at building things, and I could do that with him. I could do the physical side of it, but he could figure out the math about how long a board has to be and all that, and I just could never do that.
Well, what are your earliest memories of him actually doing the funny work? Did they both hang out at the house?
What, Ray?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they slept in the same bed. I mean, they were a team. They had to be together. They had to work on the material at some point.
And your mom just kind of had a bed down the hall?
Yeah, and Ray's wife, they slept together in another room. Yeah, they all understood how this works. Every team does that. Laurel and Hardy,
they all
Abbott
did
and
that.
Costello.
You got to sleep together.
You got to do it.
How are you going to know what's funny?
Right.
Yeah, if you don't build that weird dynamic.
Actually, I don't think my dad saw Ray much. But I'm trying to think when I was aware of that he was funny. I mean, I was aware around the house that he was funny.
But going to the studio.
Going to the studio, I used to go to the studio. His office in the Gray Bar building in New York City, the Bob and Ray office was great. It was just this huge, rambling office. He had his accountant there. He had his editor there. He had an engineer there, and they had a full recording, set up in their office.
And back then, that must have been something.
It was huge.
And reel to reels.
It was reel to reels, and then this giant sound effects cart machine.
Right.
These big, I guess 8-track.
You had to slide in.
Cart things that you had to push in, and then you pushed a button. And I never went to camp or anything in the summer, and he just used to sit me in front of that machine and put headsets on, and I would just pull out these sound effects and put them in and just hear, and then just play it over and over. Punch number 6. 10 different Wolfman howls.
So they didn't have that plugged in. They were just sort of like, let the kid.
Yeah.
Let him occupy himself.
No, but to this day, people are amazed that I can do fight sound effects with my mouth as well as I can. And it's because I spent hours just listening to.
That could have been your act.
Well, it's actually going to be my second career after I run out of my act. Here.
Well, you're don't tell Michael Winslow. Because
that's right.
He's been a human sound effect machine since the 80s.
That's right.
But what did you glean or learn about show business at that time? Where because I have to assume that somehow it defined your sensibility.
Yeah, I mean, my dad has a very sarcastic sense of humor, and so does my mother, and a cynical view to a degree of show business, which actually Dave Letterman had when I started working for him and has now.
Right.
So it seemed like a perfect fit for me when I worked for Dave. But I guess, my dad's, just his sort of attitude about things taught me, that not to take the shit seriously,
Not only that, but to subtly attack it within its own walls.
Especially, in a slightly bitter but all intelligent way, which is basically what I've been doing for,
in all different
5
forms.
years. Yeah, is attacking show business in a bitter and hopefully slightly intelligent way.
Well, it deserves it, and unfortunately, if that makes money, show business will absorb you anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It doesn't matter. He's making fun of us.
Yeah, he's making us money.
Yeah.
I love this kid.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I haven't made anybody any money though.
Yeah, me neither. That's why I'm in my garage.
This is terrific, though. It actually is. It's very well appointed.
Thank you very much.
It's a mess. You look like a hoarder. But,
I'm a stacker. I mean, I don't think hoarding doesn't become hoarding till the stacks. You have to climb over stacks to get to other stacks.
No, Mark, seriously, I think you can do away with, you don't
with
need
the
that,
mail,
do you?
with the listener mail stack.
I
do need
you
that.
Can part with that.
No, there might be
scale of 1 to 10.
No, there might be something important in there that somebody wrote to me that I might.
We're going to be here all day if you do that.
Oh, all right. I'll throw this other thing away. This empty bag that I ate nuts out of, I'll throw it away.
I feel for those people in that show because everybody, I guess, does have a little bit of that in them.
That's why people watch it.
I know, and I after I look at that, I look at what my wife saves, and I start to get on her about it, and she says, "Well, yeah, your closets are kind of full too," and she's right, but I just didn't see it. I'm living with it.
We're all fighting. If you have that personality, you're all fighting that moment where you realize that all of this is just, as I get older, slowly losing its meaning.
Right.
And if I were to really take everything out of here that really meant something to me, I would be left with 3 books.
Right.
And then I'd have to live with that mark.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think I do have this idea that someday my house is going to be a museum.
Do
and
you
they're
really
they're going to have it cordoned off, and people are going to walk through and tour it.
No, it's just your wife going around with a bag. No, throw that out. That's nothing.
Yeah, no, I know that we can do without a lot of our stuff, but we have sentimental attachments to a lot of plastic lids.
Oh, that's nice. So you're a plastic lid guy. No, this is I still have the bottom to this.
You might need it.
The saddest thing about Hoarders is that that show never ends where you feel like, oh, this guy's going to be okay.
No, I know.
Ever.
I know.
At least with intervention, they're going to be in treatment for a month.
Right. Well, I think they're starting to do follow-ups to that Hoarder show now, where they go back and they see how they've done. Because I think I saw one of those.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like 50-50. It's what you expect. Some of them, are keeping it clean. And
should we feel bad about watching that shit?
I don't feel bad about watching that shit. No. It's on for me to watch. That's all I watch. I don't watch any other television. I don't watch. I can't watch network television, not because some of it isn't good. It's just, it still exists, but it's also, it's just I know a lot of people that are working on it. I know I can hear, rewrite lines on sitcoms.
So it's that weird mixture of resentment and disappointment.
Resentment, bitterness, and also just not wanting to be at work.
Right. Versus oh, I'm glad I'm not that guy.
Yeah. Which is what people, say when they watch me, whenever I do anything.
That is not true.
Well,
tremendous amount of respect in the industry.
Yeah.
From those of us who are bitter and and disappointed as well.
You've done great. What do you have to be bitter about? You're living your life. You're an artist. You're out here. You play music. You're funny, and you're doing terrific.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. I think I
mean, you're happy. You seem really happy.
I'm happier than I was.
You're a lot happier than when I saw you before.
Yeah, well, that was probably very early in the morning.
It was.
And I was filled with anger about many things.
Right,
yeah, no,
right.
I'm definitely happier than that.
Right.
So when did you, how did you get to Letterman? I mean, what were the first jobs that you had?
I was a runner. I was hired as a runner.
Yeah, how old were you, 20?
21.
So right out of college?
I didn't go to college.
You didn't?
Which I know is impossible to tell when you're talking to me.
No, you're wearing college-oriented
I'm
glasses.
wearing,
the glasses.
Brooks Brothers glasses.
Yeah, that'll
progressives.
See that? Oh, you got the progressives too. And what a line of shit they are, aren't they?
They're a line of shit. Except I like them. I don't think I could do with just bifocals. I think I would, and also my eyes are completely different too.
Yeah,
one is way more fucked up than the other one, and
do you ever get blurry vision?
Well, yeah, but I cause that. It's not really something that just sneaks up on me. I pretty much know when I'm going to have it.
Today I'm having a problem with my right eye, and I'm just trying to stay away from Googling brain cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
That's the goal of my day today.
Yeah, do it after I leave.
No, let's do it now, Chris.
No, I really.
I want you to walk me through this.
You.
Please hold me. Look, all the symptoms mean I have it. I don't even need to go to the doctor. I'll just go to tell him I have it.
You're going to be fine.
Oh, that's a nice thing to say.
That's all I can muster up for you.
You didn't go to college? You didn't want to?
No, I hated school. I didn't want to go to college.
Your dad was all right with that?
Yeah. Are you kidding? I was the last of 5 kids. He didn't want any of us to. Actually, I think one of our my second oldest sister graduated, but the rest of us, I didn't even try. Everybody else, I think, went for a semester and then said
3 out of 5 went for a semester and then fucked off.
Yeah, yeah.
What did they end up doing?
They're all doing great. You're all, my 2 of my sisters are illustrators. One's a yoga teacher, and my brother's had a long career in retail sales and so forth.
The yoga teacher went through some shit, though, right?
She went through a number of different jobs.
Yeah. I know yoga teacher is always a nice, it's almost a spiritual ending to a personal search of some kind. It's like, I'm working and I feel great.
Yeah, I think one of the oddest jobs Shannon had was like working as it wasn't it was like an egg farm or something. Her job was just to collect eggs.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of meditative.
Yeah.
Healthy eggs?
And she went from there to...
were they happy chickens? Was it a happy chicken
I think
place?
they were. I think it was
Is she a happy chicken person?
She is a happy chicken, and that's what led her to yoga.
Sure,
I've never done yoga. Obviously, she'd like me to, or everybody else to. But,
well, I think you should definitely tape that. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't.
Tape me doing yoga?
Sure, someone should have a camera in there for your first yoga experience, and I think you'll be a YouTube phenomenon.
Oh, my God.
Especially if you do some of those sound effects
I'm
during
so scared
yoga.
of that. I'm scared of stuff that people took footage of me, like, that may, pop up somewhere. I was
like
talking to somebody the other day. I used to do summer stock theater when I was a kid, believe it or not. When I was in my teens, I went and I was like apprentice these summer stock theaters. And I went down to this one place in the Outer Banks down in North Carolina, the Lost Colony, this outdoor drama. And they had an intern program where you put on plays after the main show at night. And we did Equus.
Oh, my God.
And I was the lead in Equus.
How old?
I was, I think, 17,
So you're
16.
playing the kid.
I was the kid.
Thank God you weren't playing the doctor.
No. But the kid gets naked. Mm-hmm. But this was kind of a conservative town we were in, and they didn't allow that. So I was in, like, underpants. and the girl was in underpants and tighty whities, not even like boxers, and it was outdoors, so I assumed they were scared that people were, if we were naked, there'd be people.
Other 17-year-olds might see you naked.
Other 17-year-olds, or elderly people, which would be worse. But they apparently. There had to be photos of that. Somebody had to have taken that, and I'm just so scared one day I'm just going to see these pictures of my...
It's better it's not a video.
Yeah. Well, back then, 76, I don't know.
No. It was very, very
that was a
large.
big, bulky thing.
Yeah. Nothing you could do subtly.
Right.
Who's the guy in the front with the equipment the size of a car? That's something called a Betamax. It's the first one.
That was actually, No, I thought you were talking about me in my underwear.
No, I have no idea what you look like then. Were you heavy?
My equipment? Or... my equipment lost a little weight, but
really, usually that tends to gain a little weight as you get older.
No, it works
Not with
out.
you.
It was really it does yoga.
Just the equipment.
Yeah.
You act as the yoga instructor.
I downward dog. I just know when it's happening and I don't pay attention.
Let it do its own
thing.
thing.
It's like, okay, this is going to be an hour.
Just have to sit down and not go outside.
Right.
So, all right. So, how old were you when you went to Letterman?
I was 21 when I got that job, and he was using me sort of right away. And I was a runner, but he put me on television. I think like the first show I was on, and
his first show.
Yeah, the first
right when
episode.
he got the
he did like a tour of the studio, and he went into the control room, and there was like an Oktoberfest going on in the control room.
Right,
I was in lederhosen and drinking a big beer, and he took a shine to me, early on, and like me, I was goofy looking and silly, and
did he know your dad?
And he was a fan of my dad's for sure.
Did he talk to you about that?
Yeah, well, I did meet him before I went to Letterman. It's a story I've told, but it is true. I was a tour guide at Rockefeller Center, and he came up to the observation deck, and I started just blabbing about who my dad was, to him, right away. And it's funny because he said to me, well, it's interesting because whenever I've subbed for Johnny, I always want to try to get Bob and Ray on. And for some reason, I just said to him, my dad doesn't do the Tonight Show unless Johnny's hosting, sorry. and he just kind of like brushed that off, but apparently he remembered me when I went and got hired.
What were your memories of him, though? Like, he's become sort of odd in terms of like what gets out and what gets in over there. Like, you know, most people I know who I talk to who work on the show currently, they're like, oh no, he's over there. Like he seems almost inaccessible.
But I think that's probably inevitable with that kind of success and that amount of time with that kind of show and the turnover. I mean, people do go there and then leave on their own for their own reasons.
But I mean, initially when the show was first starting, I mean, how engaged was he with the creative process and with the writers and
He was engaged. It was a smaller group of people, so it was hard for him to avoid, being engaged.
Right.
And there was, we were in small offices up on the 14th floor. You were up there.
Yeah.
You remember that. I do remember him taking me out to breakfast once, and it was. I felt like an idiot because he asked me. It was like the second week I was there, and he said he was staying at a hotel, him and Meryl Marco,
right.
that was near where I was still living with my parents.
Right.
And he said,
in the city?
Yeah. And he was saying, you want to go to this coffee shop for breakfast? And I thought he was busting on me. And I was
right.
like, oh, yeah, sure. Okay, I'll be there. What time? 8:30? All right. Yeah. And then he walked out that day, and I was manning the desks at the front, and he said, so we're going to show you tomorrow, right? And I was like, yes, sure. And that morning I woke up and I was thinking, well, I don't know. And I went to the coffee shop and he wasn't there.
Right.
And I went, I'm just such a moron. And I sat down and then, I looked up and there was Dave and Meryl and they walked in and sat down and he was really, he brought me into that fold pretty, comfortably. He really liked me, I guess.
How long were you like that guy before you became sort of a writer and performer on it regularly?
I think I'm still that guy though. Even though I was a writer, I was, I wrote stuff for him, but in general, I was always writing for myself and always trying to figure out what could I do on the show next. Because once I got a laugh that I sort of wrote, it was suddenly like, oh, that's kind of, cooler to me than hearing somebody else do it and get a laugh.
So you just tried to get yourself into as many character sketches as possible?
Yeah, or my own. I mean, he was giving me my own spotlight every week. He was letting me come out and do my own thing. He was calling me Chris Elliott. He was saying, now another visit from Chris Elliott, or here's another running character from our friend Chris Elliott. But the whole act with me was that I'm this sort of slightly deranged staff member who's, is desperate to be famous and has absolutely no talent.
Disgruntled.
And is disgruntled and bitter about his fame.
I remember.
But there is, there was a little truth to that. I think I had talent, but I was certainly inexperienced. I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
So, it fit perfectly.
I remember the guy on the floor the best.
Yeah, the guy in the seats was that's going back, but
that attitude, like just sort of like that fuck it all kind of disposition was so fucking funny.
Well, he liked that. Dave liked
he laughed at it.
Yeah, and I was kind of that way with him up in the office sometimes. He'd just try to joke with me, and I just say, oh, I guess that's funny, and he's, nobody else was doing that with him.
Was there an awareness though that you guys were like hot rodding that style of late night show? That was there a compulsion to kind of take it to a place that's never been? Did you feel that, or were you just kind of having fun?
I felt that to a degree with the stuff I was doing, and I guess to a degree some of the stuff that I was writing for Dave. It was we always tried to do something big for the sweeps period, like some sort of theme show, which I love doing. Like the Christmas with the Letterman show or the reverse image show or whatever. We did like these sort of silly theme shows, and that seemed to be pushing that a little bit, and the thing that was so comfortable for me on that show away was that it was making fun of show business, even though it was sort of like a real Fernwood Tonight. It was actually making fun of what it was, and that just felt perfect for what I was doing, because I came out and made fun of sort of running characters on other shows, and
were you aware of like Ernie Kovacs and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean,
was he? Of course he was.
Yeah, but I mean, and absolutely, and Steve Allen for sure. Who, and he had a number of little running characters also on the show that,
And so
but I was amazed at how much some of that early stuff that I did was sort of like my dad's stuff. When he was like really young, and him and Ray used to do stuff on the Ed Sullivan Show, where suddenly my dad's popping up in the audience with a mustache and a wig on, and it's not like the Bob and Ray stuff that you sort of think of them for doing, the sit-down interview, straight-laced, button-down kind of humor.
They used to do wacky shit?
They were doing wacky stuff.
Do you remember watching that stuff on TV?
I don't remember seeing it when it was on. I did see, like, after I had started doing stuff, I went to the Museum of Broadcasting for a Bob and Ray retrospective and suddenly saw all this stuff. And I was like, well, that's where this is coming from with me.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and the writers at Late Night that worked with me. And
but he was so, like, I remember, like, I was on board with that stuff, like, right when it started. I was in college, I think.
Yeah.
And his tone and what was going on, you really felt like you were watching, like, this is like completely fucking new television.
And there was nothing else like it.
Right.
Around.
Well, also his attitude. I mean,
Yeah.
the edge that he had, that he brought to interviews, it was sort of like, well, we don't care about that.
Right,
right.
right.
Like, he would actually say that to people. I mean, there's one moment I have in my mind, and I'd like to believe it's real because of the way I remember it, but he had some guy on there that wrote a book who had found God. He'd been involved with the mob.
Right.
And I guess in the book, he had talked, in a vague way about hits he was involved in.
Yeah.
And he started going on about how, he was, he'd found God, or that he's a different man now. And Dave was like, we don't care about that. Tell us about the people you killed. So I
vaguely remember that too.
It's real.
But he was real and is, I think. I mean, I always like sort of, because I would rehearse stuff with Dave, you always knew, and the home audience knew if he was in a bad mood or if he was in a good mood that day. And he never bothered really trying to hide that. It was like, but he was professional in the sense that he would go through the show and it would be just as funny, but there were nights when he was more grumpy than other nights.
Right.
And,
I guess that's why people loved it.
Yeah. And he was just completely honest.
But he was always like a pretty responsible, or he cared about the craft of broadcasting, it seemed.
Absolutely.
That's like the difference between, like, when I watch Jay Leno, it's just in this never ending tumbling car. Like, just something that's spinning in slow motion.
Yeah.
But like, when you watch Dave, everything's like crisp and clean.
Right.
And he's like, he knows how to hold a camera. He delivers well. Like, he's a very proficient and professional broadcaster.
And he was always that way. As soon as he was at Late Night, he was like that.
He
was like he had been in that business forever. He respected the
tradition,
the elders in the business.
Right.
He even though he made fun of, some of them to
But
a
you
degree.
felt that, right?
Yeah. No, he definitely knew where it came from and how he got there too. I mean, he had been a weatherman for a long time too.
Yeah. But I love that. I love, when I do watch him, I still notice that there's just such a refined nature to his technique of broadcast.
And part of it was even like, the way he was dressed, that he was like, in a suit. I think we did a couple of shakedown
and sneakers,
shows.
Though, right? Didn't he wear a suit?
Yeah,
and
wrestling shoes.
Right,
And he did, his early shows.
Yeah.
He wore a sweater, and I remember Marco, I think, was the one who
She's
said
been in here.
He should wear a tie, and she told me that he can get away with more if he's wearing a tie and a jacket and looks more preppy and straight laced, and she was right.
Do you still talk to him?
Yeah, I mean between commercial breaks. If I just did the show last week, so
you did?
Yeah, so it's
what's that like? Is it touching? I mean, are you touching each other, but do you find like there's an emotional component to it, or the history that you have?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I think he does. I think there's a slight, nostalgic thing here that goes on when we get together. We don't chat. I don't see him outside the show.
Oh, you don't? Yeah.
No, but
did you ever outside of that
it's
breakfast?
basically like we were showing at pre-tape, and it's like, how's your family? And
right.
How's your family? And all that. And then, but I know just from what he says on air about me, whether it's in the intro or after I've done my little bit, that it means something to him to see me every now and then.
Well, I think he's gotten, to me, since the heart operation, he's gotten visibly more emotional.
That would make sense.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, he's definitely
You have
evolved.
to surgically open your heart.
Yeah.
At least someone did it for you, but it's open now.
I remember in the early days of Late Night, he would get, guest lists of who's coming up. And I remember one of the guests was Treat Williams. And he said, he crossed him off, and somebody in the talent department said, why Treat Williams? And he said, well, I'm never going to have anybody on my show named Treat. But he's evolved and softened, and Treat Williams has been on the show, so
Thank God.
He's changed that.
Thank God he jumped that quirky hurdle. So what happened right after the Letterman show?
I went and did Get a Life.
Now this is a question I got to ask for you, because it seems that show was way the fuck ahead of its time.
Oh, that's nice to hear. I mean, I don't know. I think it was part of a wave of comedy that it was part of. I don't know that it started a wave of comedy or anything like that. I think that it was...
But it seems to me that if that show existed now, given the success of other, like Arrested Development, Tim and Eric, that there are these precedents set.
Arrested Development was actually a working title for Get a Life. It was one of my ideas for a title. Yeah, years ago for and then Get a Life came up. I had heard Joan Rivers say Get a Life to somebody. I thought, that actually fits perfectly.
How many episodes did you do?
I don't know. I think we
Have
did.
no idea.
We did 22 the first season, and half of that, I guess, the next season.
And what happened with it? It just.
I think it was just one of those things. It was not what Fox wanted initially. I think they smelled a bait and switch to a degree. We were doing a show that was really, not a traditional sitcom. It was making fun of itself. It was making fun of the genre.
Right.
And I remember being in an early Fox meeting where, they said, we really want the next Cosby Show, and
you were like,
and they were
sure.
looking at me. Yeah. And I was saying, well, who better?
Yeah.
I'm your man. And Adam Resnick, Dave Merkin, and myself did this show that, the pilot, it's interesting if you watch the pilot, it's a little bit more mainstream, even though I'm still being an idiot in it. But then once that first episode came out of the gate, which was the male model episode, that really sort of just said what the show was going to be, and it was basically a fuck you to, the world of sitcoms. Yeah,
But they ran with it for 22, right?
Yeah, no,
Or
and
more.
it did well. It did well ratings-wise for them in terms of new shows and all that. I think it just was like one of those things where there was a change and this usually happens in the hierarchy at Fox and the executives and the person coming in. I have a feeling I crossed the wrong person or something, and who knows?
Yeah, but you can't put your finger on it exactly. But
my suspicion is some guy I remember was pitching like some promo ideas early on for Get a Life, and the ideas were horrendous. They were all like fast motion, like Keystone Cops ideas with goofy Benny Hill music in the background. And I remember like just making fart noises in the background on the phone and just, that's a great idea. And making the writers laugh. And this poor guy was tap dancing and trying his hardest to sell me on something. And I think he actually moved into the position at Fox of being in charge of the show.
That's hilarious. Isn't it? I wonder how many careers have been dashed by making writers laugh.
Making fart noises.
Just like playing to the guys that requires so much darkness to laugh.
It's either that or it's that, years ago, I remember when I was a kid, my parents were selling their townhouse and Roy Cohn came to see it on a Sunday and unannounced and just knocked on the door, the famous lawyer, the very
I know him. The famous
brutal
closeted gay lawyer who was McCarthy's.
Who was notorious for vendettas and holding grudges and all that. And he knocked on the door and said, I want to come in and see your house. And my mother said, well, it's not showing today. And he said, well, don't you want to sell it? And my mother, bless her heart, just said never on Sunday and slammed the door in his face. I guess never on Sunday, it was like kind of a popular phrase back then.
It was.
And I've always had the suspicion that somehow Roy Cohn has fucked up my career ever since then. And he may have had something to do with Get a Life. I don't know. Well, I mean, I think his tentacles probably spread out, pretty far. He probably said, watch that kid. He's 5 years old now. But
you know what's scary about that whole train of thought is that there are you start to realize as you get older is that there is a pretty small crew of people in different businesses that actually do know each other and could squash you like a fucking bug.
I am amazed to this day, and I'm still putting my foot in my mouth. I'm amazed at what I say to people that comes back to haunt me.
Like what?
You're going to hear some shit about you.
Believe me. Really? In the future?
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm amazed at what you just said, how small the community is. And it's getting smaller. I mean, everybody, I live in Connecticut. I don't know anybody really anymore, but like my daughters are both in the business and they know everybody.
I know.
Everybody knows everybody now.
It's weird, right?
It is weird.
I think that has to do with technology, though, too. I don't know if the business is getting smaller, but people are more accessible.
Yeah, with
because,
the internet.
It's like between Twitter and Facebook and, people wanting to be part of that. Older people are like, what is this Twitter?
Right.
And all of a sudden, Lorne Michaels is like, he's not on there.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm not on there. I'm not.
You don't have to be.
Everybody's telling me I should, and I'm
I know,
but that just seems like work to me. It seems like I got to, write jokes in the morning.
That's right.
And I don't want to do that.
And then the risk is that you get addicted to it because then you get you want to see the feedback. And it's all very immediate. And then you can end up like me and spend 3 hours.
Right. And I like, I torment over the stuff that I write, My daughter Bridie has a popular Twitter account and people follow her and she's really funny and I'm amazed. I watch it and I just go, oh my God, that's great. How did she come up with that?
Right.
And then suddenly there's another thing there, just stream of thought, consciousness stuff that she's thought of.
Do you think that Get a Life, I have to assume that because of the, you've been in a lot of movies and you're very specific comedic talent. that's uniquely yours. I have to assume that people have paid you some respect, like younger people that have come up. Have you gotten gratitude for that? Have people said
Definitely. And I mean, it's at a point now where, like, this show that I'm doing on Adult Swim, Eagleheart, is written by, three guys, Jason Wallner, Michael Coman, and Andrew Weinberg, who were all fans of mine and kind of grew up with me. And
so they know your shit.
They know my shit, and they can write for me perfectly. They have my voice down, and it's funny to me because I start, dealing with them like, oh, well, we're contemporaries. Like, I'm hanging out with them like I was hanging out with the writers back at late night, and then suddenly I realize, oh, wait, these guys are like in their 20s.
It's great.
I'm 51 here.
It's
great. But that is, and Get a Life had a lot to do with that. That's what sort of, that and the stuff at Letterman, I think.
Right, because they appreciated it, and
right.
I'm sure when it got taken off, they're like, those fuckers don't know anything.
Right.
This is the best show in the world.
Right. Yeah.
And Eagleheart is basically like a Chuck Norris.
Well, no, I mean they wrote a pilot that was kind of a Chuck Norris parody of like Walker, Texas Ranger. But then I got involved with. They couldn't find the Chuck Norris guy, and of course, I don't know why they didn't think of me first, but I came in to do it, and then when I got involved, they sort of changed it, and the show suddenly became this very surreal, violent action comedy that the Chuck Norris aspect is just a jumping off point.
Right.
I don't even really look like him anymore.
Right.
It's sort of more or less like, okay, we'll package it
just
under
a vehicle
that. For them to take the stories anywhere they want, and for me and
macabre slapstick.
Brett Gelman and Maria Thayer to act like total morons in the whole thing.
And this is season 2 now?
Yeah, season 2 starts April 12th, and the DVDs come out on the 3rd.
How long are each episode?
Each episode is 15 minutes.
That's great, right?
It is really fun, actually. I mean, it's like kind of, my dad used to have an old 20-minute show on NBC, and it is fun. It's sort of like, and for me, I think it's actually the perfect amount of time for me to be on the air. For anybody to sit through me.
But it's almost like an extended, it becomes more of it's tighter and it's more of a sketch sensibility, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, and what I used to do on Letterman, I used to do, film or tape pieces every now and then that were like 5 minutes long. So this is not that much longer, and it feels just right to me. And
it seems like Adult Swim, it definitely has a built-in audience, and they definitely give creative people a lot more freedom than any other.
Oh, you couldn't do this show anywhere else.
Ever,
there's no
right?
way. There's no place ever. Yeah.
And are people loving it or what?
It seems to have quite a following, which is good. It's, I guess it did really well last season, and we're hoping it'll do the same this season. But yeah, Adult Swim, they were fans of mine as well. It is, I do sometimes feel like kind of an elder statesman, and I have to, realize that, well, I am old. I'm 51 now, and, it's in this business, doing what I do, that is a
But you've never really stopped. I mean, were there ever times where you're like, oh, I'm fucked?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
Well, right now.
No, you're good. This is good.
No, I meant this interview.
I know what you meant.
No, right after Cabin Boy, I thought I was fucked. I thought, oh... Okay, that's how that happens.
What happened? How was it? I know you probably told that story a million times, but how did that all come together?
Well, I mean, it was Tim Burton had seen an episode of Get a Life, specifically the one where I build a submarine and get stuck in my shower with it,
right?
Home submarine, and he had me and Adam Resnick come in and told us he wanted to do kind of a Pee-wee's Big Adventure for the 90s, and we pitched a Captain's Courageous idea, which I had always wanted to do, kind of a parody of Captain's Courageous. But Adam and I both knew, well, if Tim Burton's going to direct it, we got to put some creatures in it or something, something creepy.
Yeah.
So we said with like Ray Harryhausen creatures. So we'll have claymation and stop motion animation and whatever.
So you can have fun too.
Yeah. So you can play.
Yeah.
And he loved it. He loved the script. And then the last minute decided he wanted to do Ed Wood instead, and suggested Adam direct it, and so he went to do Ed Wood. He did take a number of his creative team in terms of special effects with him.
So you got hung out to dry by the director attached.
When it came out, I felt like we were totally hung out to dry.
Yeah, there was no explanation of what it was. I vaguely remember commercials, and they were sort of like, "What is that about?"
Well, I mean, they did. It was too wide a release for that kind of film. It was a short film and a small film, really. When you look at it,
but it has to have its fans.
It has a following.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that amazing?
Nobody nobody's more amazed than me.
No, but I mean that we live in a world where people can find it. Like, you can still get it, and it still grows.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like, have you seen this? And the dude's like, no. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're one of those guys.
But I have to admit, I never thought it was a bad movie. I always thought, oh, this is a good movie. They're, flawed for sure, but I thought, oh, well, this is a weird, funny movie. It's not what you normally see.
Why did you think it was going to be a career killer?
Well, it was vilified by the press, for one thing, for the reviews, for the most part.
Yeah.
And literally the phone stopped ringing. I mean, that was the first time in my career. I think I was so ignorant. I'd done Get a Life, and we were canceled, but we were already in production for Cabin Boy, so it didn't bother me that much. I had done 8 years at working for Dave, then I did Get a Life, then I had my own movie, and I think, honestly, I was thinking, well, I'm going to do Boy 2, 3, and 4 after this,
sure.
And or at least something else.
Right.
I think I was so dumb that I just thought, well, if it doesn't work, they'll still let me do another movie. But
right.
That ain't how it works, apparently.
Right. So like in that, how long did the phones not ring, really? I mean, was there a period of, like, desperation?
It was a little frightening. It was a little like, oh, no one wants to hear a pitch right now. No one wants to hear this or that.
Because you had stink on you?
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years later, there were already people that were fans of Get a Life were moving into positions where they wanted to see me.
Re-understood.
Yeah. And there were, right from the start, fans of Cabin Boy.
Right.
That, were behind me.
So the kids came to the rescue again, the fans.
Yeah, the fans did. And Saturday Night Live, that was why we were out in L.A., and that's when when Cabin Boy opened, that's when I embalmed, and I didn't have any work. That's when I decided to do SNL, and they were nice enough to offer me that year, coincidentally, to come and do the show. And
I talked to a lot of SNL people here, and I think you have talked about it publicly a bit, but I haven't heard it. I've not yet been able to find somebody to give me even a slightly disturbing vision of Lorne Michaels. I find that everyone I talk to is like, Lorne's wonderful, and I don't know why I'm searching for that. I have some I need to talk to Lorne personally. What was
you've met him, haven't you?
Sure, he made me. I jumped through the hoops to get on the show, and I had that encounter, where it was very awkward. But
so you're bitter.
Yeah, no, and I've got a little bit of bitterness. I don't know that I could have handled doing the show at the time that I was jumping through those hoops, or how I fucked it up, but I think there's part of me that wants to sit down with Lorne again and go, how did I fuck that up, and what was going on?
Well, he has an aura about him that you want to be in his camp. He has that thing that makes you want to be under his wing. Yeah, and if you are under his wing, he's very good to you. I mean, he was always, I got to say, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but he was always really nice to me before I ever went there, because he was a fan of my dad's. He knew my dad. He enjoyed late night, but he was always very supportive of me. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I look back on it, and I'm amazed all those guys were. Chevy Chase was really supportive of me.
Yeah.
And really sweet to me. And really, like, what you're doing is really funny. Maybe you want to go upstairs, one of these days, meaning to SNL, And I had a couple of opportunities to go there. And I stayed at late night because Dave was giving me my own, format
platform,
there.
Sure, yeah.
And by the time I went to Saturday Night Live, it was the wrong time for me. I had done Cabin Boy, I had done Get a Life, I had, I wasn't ready to go at that point. I didn't have the eye of the tiger.
Well, you were right, because you thought you had already arrived, and then it was taken away from you.
It really has to be your first job, I think. It has to be your first job. You have to be hungry. You have to not really know what working on the sitcom schedule's like.
Right, and your confidence had been shattered.
My confidence was shattered when I went there, but I was also. What I realized is that I had established myself as a guy who makes fun of himself whenever he's on television. And even if I'm doing an impersonation of Marv Albert or Morton Downey Jr. or Marlon Brando,
that's so in you.
It's Chris Elliott doing this impersonation.
Right.
And you can't do that on SNL. You have to live the incarnation of whatever character you're doing.
Wasn't that an odd? Who was the cast? It was an odd cast, wasn't it? Like one of those.
It was a huge cast, and it was sort of the last year that Adam Sandler was there, Chris Farley, David Spade.
So it was you, Garofalo, Spade was
They
still
brought
there?
me and Janine in. Added us to an already large cast that included, Jay Moore and just.
Oh, there's a lot of like those people. That was like that first year where it's like just keep, like where the credits went on forever and featuring.
And I was amazed that even the stars of the show at that point, which were Adam Sandler and David Spade and Farley and those guys, that there was still sort of a, I don't know, if competition, I guess, to get on the air, you know.
Well, with that many people, how
with
the hell
that many
could there
people,
not
you
be?
have to be. But that's something I was not used to, because I had my own TV show and my own little spot on Letterman. I was never in competition with anybody for anything.
You had to align yourself with a writer or write stuff to like try to like. Get
and that was
on?
another thing. I didn't want to write anything. I thought, well, I wasn't hired as a writer. There's a staff of writers here.
Right.
I'll come up with an idea, but I'm not going to stay here all night working on it. And I didn't.
Right.
So I mean, whatever. It was a lackluster year for me there.
You were only there a year.
Only there a year. I was gonna. There was offer to come back and do update bits once a week,
right?
Which probably would have been right for me to do, but
right.
I think at that point I was ready to move on. But I felt it like it was totally my fault that I realized I can't break the fourth wall like I was always doing at Letterman on this show.
Was there ever a point where you're like, how come Lauren's not helping me out?
No, not really. I think I probably went up to his office a few times and told him I think I suck here. This is horrible. And he's always very supportive and just said, no, you're doing fine. It's fine. It's a tough thing. And I always enjoyed his company. He has great stories.
No, yeah,
I used to listen to his stories. I'll tell you one thing about him. I first met him years ago when my dad got me an interview when I was like 18. I was working as a tour guide at Rockefeller Center, and he got me an interview with Lauren, and I was just going to try to be like an extra on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
And I remember the appointment was for like 2 p.m. and I showed up, and they sat me in Studio 8H, and they said, okay, Lauren will be with you in a little while. And it was like 8 hours before I was called up to his office.
Yeah.
And when I was called up to his office, though, people just brought me in and sat me down in front of his desk. He was sitting there drinking a tab, and the room was filled with people. And somebody was opening a present, and everybody was singing Happy Birthday. Gilda Radner was in the room, and Lorraine Newman. And I sang Happy Birthday to this person. And one thing that's really nerdy, I remember like getting dressed up the way I thought I should look for Saturday Night Live, which was this stupid 17-year-old kid. My dad had done some commercials for Goodyear.
Right.
And they had given him a Goodyear not a blazer, like a windbreaker.
Yeah.
So I wore that over like a Hawaiian shirt that I thought, okay, this will be cool. And
this'll pop.
Yeah, and some horrible big baseball cap that was too big for my tiny head. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and like after, I don't know, literally like a half an hour of just like watching these people talk to each other. I just heard Lauren just say, "So Chris, what can I do for you?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'd like to maybe be an extra on the show sometime." And he said, "Well, that's no problem." And I went, "Oh, okay. Should I go now?" Or and somebody gently took my arm and ushered me out of the room again.
Did you ever do it?
No. I never got.
You never went back, or
I never got called to be an extra on. I was just a kid. I don't. There wasn't a lot of call for that, I guess.
It's so like kind of cool that even though your dad is who he is, that you had all this great comedic talent. So there was. It must have felt good not to like there. It opened all these doors, but you could deliver, and you kind of knew that.
Well, I didn't know it then. I
Right.
I mean, I honestly fell into, making Dave laugh. I had made people laugh, when I was younger and so forth. But I had no game plan. I had no, I didn't map out what it is I do. Oh, I'm going to do this kind of surreal stuff where I'm making fun of myself and doing,
that happened naturally.
That just happened naturally.
And that's sort of what people, use you for. I mean, like the scene, what was it in the thing about Mary? Was that the one where you had the facial rash?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
I mean, that's very memorable.
Yeah.
I mean, was that your thing?
I did come up with the rashes. I remember when I met with Peter and Bobby Fairley, I remember saying, after that script was so funny, right? I didn't need the rashes. I just wanted I wanted to feel like I added something, and I just said, what if my rashes? I have rashes, and they get worse and worse as and then Peter, I think, came up with the actual boil on my eye at the end.
Those guys were so funny.
They were great, and and still are. I mean, I'm not in touch with them, but that movie holds up. You see that movie and Kingpin. I see that movie. It's just really funny too.
Yeah, it is funny.
Bill Murray is just insane.
So good. Did you know him?
That same night that I was waiting for Lorne Michaels, I saw him come in and rehearse, and it was funny because everybody was waiting for him and looking for him over the PA system there, saying, "Where's Billy? Where's Billy?" And suddenly, and this is my memory of it, and I admit my memory may have changed a little bit, but I remember the elevator doors opening and him coming out with two babes on either arm and a bottle of Jack Daniels in one hand, and he stumbled into the stage, walked over to where he had to be, and then flawlessly did his little commercial parody, or whatever it was, rehearsed it perfectly.
That's a good way to remember it.
And then stumbled out.
Yeah.
That was the first time I sort of saw him.
Right.
And then I met him for the first time at Letterman, and then I auditioned for Scrooged, I remember, and he read with me, and I met him there.
Were you in that movie?
No, Bob Cat Goldthwait got the role.
Got the role.
Yeah. Then I was in Groundhog Day with
Bill
Murray, and
and
then Osmosis Jones, and trying to think, was there anything else I did? I can't remember, but I knew I was with Brian. I had done work with his brother quite a bit.
He's funny too.
Yeah,
man.
he's great.
It feels like whenever I hear people talk about that era of SNL, there was definitely it almost sounds as if there was a party going on all the time, and I'd like to think that there was, but was there really? I mean, do you remember it well?
Well, when I was there, it was a little more sedate already. It wasn't.
No, but I mean, when you went there in the 70s, because I went to.
My dad did the show once. That he did this Bob and Ray, Lorraine, Jane, and Gilgamesh special.
Right.
And I do remember even then, and I think I was I don't know, 17 when he did that, and I remember going upstairs, and there was a huge party going on up there, and it was odd to see Bob and Ray in the midst of this party. And even at 17, I knew what was going on in somebody else's office, and what was being smoked or toked or anything, or snorted. And my dad, it's funny, my dad just never knew that. He
just never registered it. He just
these
kids are having fun.
Yeah, he just sort of found that out a few years ago. He said, I can't believe how they got all that stuff done if they were all stoned.
It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing. I mean, I can't work like that. Because
I remember going there, someone I had gone to camp with, his dad was some executive at NBC in some other department, and I wanted to meet John Belushi. Mm-hmm. And I think I must have been 14. Yeah. And I went up to the offices. It was all set up. I went up with my grandmother.
Right.
And I waited, and then Al Franken came out. And he had the big sort of Jew fro, and he was just giggling. He's like, yeah, John's really busy right now. And I was very disappointed, but it was
But you knew why he was busy.
I mean, now I do.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if he was even there or awake or what. But they sent Franken out, he's really busy right now. He can't make it up.
No, I think Tom Davis actually clued my dad into what was going on in those years, and my dad was just really surprised.
He's still around there, isn't he, Tom Davis? I mean,
not at SNL, no.
Was he around when you were there?
Tom, no. Al was there.
Was he? Oh, he was
and
back?
I worked with Al a little bit on some
so
stuff.
Funny,
he's great. He's great.
So fucking funny. It's like I worked with him on Air America. There's some part of me that's sort of I'm glad he's a senator and everything, but God, he's when he put his mind to it, he was funny.
Yeah. No, and he should be a senator though, because I remember one of the amazing talents that he had is he could draw a map of the United States and draw the borders between all the states perfectly.
That qualifies.
He could do it on a cocktail napkin.
Yeah.
Which was always amazing.
Yeah, no, I think he's a great center. He's a good guy. But I always got a kick out of him. He's got a very weird sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah. But he was a huge fan of my dad's, and
they all grew up with your dad.
They did all grow up with him, and Bill Murray was, and Bill Murray introduced them when they did the Bob and Ray, Lorraine, Gilda and Jane show, which is a hilarious show. I mean, that's just a great show. It's the one where Bob and Ray sing "If You Want My Bob," if you think I'm sexy,
right.
And I was at that show. I was in the audience and it was just so much fun.
Did you grow up with all the black and white pictures of your dad and stars?
Yeah.
And Ed Sullivan.
My mother had a hallway full of those framed black and whites, which was the thing to do back then in New York. I grew up in a townhouse in New York City, and it was the thing to do. You put that stuff up, I used to hours just staring at those
it's
things,
like the history of modern show business.
Yeah. And there were a lot of photos from their TV show where, Audrey Meadows was first on it, and then Cloris Leachman took over because Audrey went to do The Honeymooners,
Yeah.
Or was it Jane? Which one did The Honeymooners?
It was Jane Meadows.
Jane Meadows.
Yeah. Were they sisters?
They were sisters, yeah.
Oh, I think it was Jane Meadows. Now we're both, did you ever meet Jackie Gleason?
No, I never met Jackie Gleason.
Your folks your dad probably did, right?
I think my dad did. I mean, their sphere of friends were more kind of in the literary world to a degree. Not that my dad, only because I guess that it was people like Art Buchwald or Henry Morgan and
right.
those kind of people,
Right.
kind of Dick Cavett,
Well, now, okay, so your experience at SNL was not, it may have been miserable, but you blame yourself for the most part.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was what it is, and that show has always run the same way. So it's, it's the kind of show where some days you have just great days, and then other days you just, are in the depths of depression.
Well, now your daughter's on it.
Yeah, and she's experienced that as well, and she's been on it a lot longer than me. This is her 4th season.
But when she was taking that job, I mean, was there a sit down?
I didn't. There was the only thing I said to her was that you don't have to take it. That was the only thing. I mean, and which I think is actually the best advice I could have given her, is just think it through. You don't have to do this. You will do other things. There are other opportunities. But of course I knew she was going to take it. She was offered the show.
Right.
She came and auditioned and did a really funny audition, and I knew that she was going to do it when they offered it to her.
And are you excited about that?
Oh my God, yes, I am proud and just blown away. But it does this other thing to you too, which is this time thing.
Yeah.
Where you feel like what is going on, that my kids are kind of doing what I did. And, I'm sort of where my dad was when he was watching me do what he did, and now he's up there in Maine watching me doing it and them doing it, and it's just strange to me that it's just happened so quickly.
You're like a show business dynasty. That's what you are.
Yeah, I guess.
3 generations of funny.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I mean, I don't think there are 3 generations of funny right now. There will be. I mean, I'm sure this is going to start a trend. You'll see. Ben Stiller's kids out there pretty soon, and
you would think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And they should be. I'm sure they're all going to be funny and great.
They're not as old as your kids, though. Right?
No, they're younger.
So how old is Abby?
Abby's 24 and Bridie's 21.
And she's going into comedy too?
Bridie does stand-up. She does, she writes.
In New York?
In New York. She goes to these really
is she living in Brooklyn?
kind of, no, she's living in Harlem. She's living way uptown.
Okay.
Which is so cool. I love where she's living. She's near Columbia, and it's really cool.
Good. Yeah.
Shares an apartment with, a really nice guy who's not romantic, and it's just, she's living, they both started college, they both did a semester and then said, no, sorry, we want to go into show business. And I didn't talk them out of it, I didn't talk them into
What about your wife? Was there any discussion?
No, I think we were both like, well,
makes sense.
It makes sense if they're going to do this. They're either going to get it out of their system and go back to college, or they're going to make a go of it. So far, they're both,
Abby's not going to go back to college.
No. It's not. No. And Bridie isn't either. She's, they may take classes and all that. And I have been encouraging both of them, keep doing your acting classes or whatever, on the side. So you can.
How's her stand-up?
It's really funny. It's really she was such a shy person.
Yeah.
Abby was always out there. Abby was always performing. So we sort of knew, okay, she's going to go into that. Bridie was always like I was growing up, really, really shy and did not hated audience participation. She nearly killed me once when on her 7th birthday, we went to a Mexican restaurant and I told the maitre d', so he brought a big sombrero and put it on her head. And that humiliation scarred her. She hates that stuff, but somehow I think she's, it's like facing your demon. It's like going into a shark cage. It's
and there's a voice for that.
Yeah, there is. And she gets up there and she does impersonations. She does these sort of funny little stories about, dating John Wayne Gacy and just all this stuff. And I just said, I don't know where this is coming from, but it's great. And
it's coming from growing up your daughter.
Well, but
the daughter of John Wayne Gacy.
And their mother is funny and all that. I mean, it's a funny family, or a goofy family.
And what about books? Because the last time I interviewed on Air America, I know you had. I'm trying to remember which book you just. Well,
I had 2. I had Into Hot Air, and then The Shroud of the Thwacker. It may have been that one. I've just finished another book. It comes out in October, which is an unauthorized autobiography. So it's kind of as if Kitty Kelly
wrote a book about herself.
No, didn't write one about me, and I wrote it by myself.
See. Okay, so it's an unauthorized I get it.
Yeah. So I'm just making up a lot of crap about myself, and
it's
sort of a little emphasis on the romantic and sexual proclivity side. So
slightly exaggerated.
Well, I mean, I do say I had an affair with Shelley Winters, and there's some reason to back that up, but. It's pretty much exaggerated, yeah.
So what all in all was, since you seem to have, like you do a lot of character work, and you show up a lot on TV shows, you've been in a lot of movies. But I mean, what was really the most rewarding part of the show business career up to this point? And I don't ask that to many people. It seems like a hackneyed interview question. But
well, my answer is going to be hackneyed, and I honestly, well, I'll give you two answers. But the one thing is fans, and it does sound like sort of sappy from me, but I was never really, I don't think, good in terms of keeping up with my fans. I'm certainly not now in terms of being on Twitter or whatever.
Right.
But they've stuck with me all these years. So that's very gratifying.
And some of them have changed the face of television on some level.
Yeah, well, the people that have gone into it that have been influenced by me or my father, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about the hardcore fans that
Sure.
are looking forward to season 2 of Eagleheart,
Right.
that, are remember Get Alive, that love Cabin Boy. That, and honestly, what we were just talking about, seeing my daughters go into it and being successful, and knowing that, I know what they're feeling right now. It works both ways. If something isn't going well, I know what they're feeling then too. The good thing about them, and it was the same way with me growing up, is that they saw the ups and downs with me in my career, and I saw it with my dad. And my dad made an attempt just to leave that stuff at the Gray Bar building, and show business was just a job, and I tried to do that too. And we did try to make Dad has to go to LA and do this show, but
right.
It wasn't a huge deal. We didn't make a big deal out of it. And
you weren't running around the house going, I'm fucked.
No. I mean, I do feel that way quite often around the house.
But like your dad, you felt that he struggled as well?
Yeah, well, I know he did. I know, there were times financially and also just in career times where, the phone wasn't ringing too. But he always went into the office. He always sat down and he may have been painting. He likes to paint. He may have been doing something else than writing. But something always seemed to come along. I'm a lot like him in the sense that I never had the desire to have something ready to go as soon as something else ends.
Right.
I can't concentrate on more than one thing at a time.
Right.
And so it's really hard, even now doing press, it's really hard for me to think, okay, I'm going to talk to Mark, then I'm doing Conan tomorrow night, but I got to think of something, a bit to do on Conan.
Right.
At the same time. This is actually really nice right now, because I'm not like in the car like going, okay, what am I going to do?
Nah, we don't need bits here.
No, I knew that. Believe me.
Did you come up with a bit for Conan?
I think I have a couple of things.
Who are you working with over there? Do you ever work with Frank Smiley over there?
Well, usually, yeah, but Daniel.
He's the best. It's like, what do you got?
Yeah.
And then like you tell Frank what you got, and he's like, yeah, what else you got?
Yeah.
And then you were just waiting for him to go, funny. That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
Daniel's a little easier.
Daniel's a little easier. He sort of laughs when you're talking.
Yeah. That sounds great.
I think I don't know. I think I'm going to talk about my plastic surgery.
Yeah, you had a lot.
Finally reveal it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, good. That sounds exciting.
Sure.
But was there a point where, like, the one thing I know when young comics talk to me, or they, because I pounded my head against the wall for 25 years, and now, like, I've had some success here in my garage, and people finally know me a little more. But, like, it's a heartbreaking fucking profession, and there's no way around it, really. That, the risk of doing show business, you're risking, heartbreak.
Well, it always was a heartbreaking business. It is way worse now with the internet.
Right.
Especially if you're young and you're just starting out and you do a couple of things or you make a couple of missteps or whatever. I mean, the internet can be pretty brutal.
And you never said that to your daughter, like, it's rough, it can be.
I'm not even sure I knew that when Abby started at SNL.
Right.
I'm not sure I knew what kind of, things would be said.
She
also gets a lot of really beautiful, lovely things being said.
But she took some hits publicly, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of
gossip,
nepotism or whatever being, and then gossip and that kind of stuff. But that wasn't around when I was around. I didn't, maybe there'd be something on page 6 every now and then, or there'd be something snarky here and there.
But usually it was only dealing with a very high level of celebrity.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, like anybody is
right
attackable.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The culture has gotten so big. There's no real separation.
Yeah.
Like it used to be just sort of like, wow, the celebrities you never knew anything about. That was where the sordid details would come out.
Right.
But now it's like anybody's a target.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, on the one hand, it's great for people starting out in the business because there's so many venues to try out stuff or to have shows or whatever. On the other hand, that sort of openness is like, it's like the every actor's nightmare, I think, or every comedic comic.
Did she talk to you about it?
There are times when she'll say stuff about it, and what can you say? You just say, you can't look at that. You know what those people are. Yeah, exactly. It's what we said when they were playing softball. It's just shake it off. Shake it off. Good eye.
But get under it. So you all get along, and it's you're all
I mean, it's weird that my wife and I are empty nesters. We bought this house in Connecticut and moved into it a couple of years ago, and thinking that we still had probably 5 or 6 years with the girls because they'll be going to college and coming back and so forth. And they said forget college, move to New York, and suddenly we're alone.
But you're close to what are you, an hour away?
Actually, we're 2 hours away, which is a little bit of a pain. We used to live an hour away.
Do they come up?
They come up, yeah. But I mean, Abby's schedule's pretty tough, and we have a cabin up in Maine, and that's the place that they were at when they were really little. So, and it's right next door to my dad, so they go up there more often.
Well, cool. It's great to see you, Chris. Good to talk.
Mark, it was so nice for you to have me, and great to see you again.
Right on. All right, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed that. What a lovely man, a lovely, funny man, a man with a history, Chris Elliott. Hope you enjoy his show. As I said, it's on tonight at midnight on Adult Swim. That's Eagle Heart. You can always go to adultswim.com for the schedule and some more details. I'm glad he was here and that we were able to sync these things up. Doesn't always happen that way. As always, go to WTFpod.com for all your WTF pod needs. Hey, if you don't have the shirt, get a shirt. Get a poster. Get on that mailing list. Make a donation. Go check out who's been on the show as opposed to tweeting me asking me to put people on the show. There's an episode guide there. Okay? Go get my record. I worked hard on it. Oh, God. I'm on this diet again. That 4-hour body thing. So many beans. So gassy. Is that too much information? All right, I'm not going to do that on my